Hi, welcome back to Talk About It Tuesdays. Today I'm delighted to introduce Karen Connell. Karen, would you like to take the floor and introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, what you do, and then we'll sort of go through how you got there.
Sure, and thanks, Huda. And look, thank you for inviting me, but also thank you for doing these type of things because I think this kind of initiative, the more people talking, getting to know each other, I mean, it beats LinkedIn, doesn't it, in terms of just
Yeah.
networking, because we can get to hear different views. And so brilliant, thank you. So I'm the director of Hunter Protection. We're the security firm for the rare and extraordinary. Essentially, we're a close protection company. I started Hunter Protection. I didn't. Everyone always asks me, how did I get into this game? And it wasn't a sort of a quick moment. It sort of happened over a long period of time. And it's interesting to think that now that I look back on how did I get into security at all? Actually, on the day that I was born, my father started at Armour Guard in Australia. And so I think security has been in the vernacular all my life. But in terms of getting into the security business, and I started more or less as a client, and don't imagine that there's a pot of millions and I'm some sort of secret millionaire and famous person. I'm not. But I wish. I am a management consultant. I work for the largest companies in the world, and some of those companies have it required me to go to some fairly, I call them hairy places, but some people would call them hostile environments, but certainly places where the company themselves have thought that I need security. I hasten to add that nothing ever happened of any great ilk, but certainly I saw as a client what it was like to have a really good security detail and one that made me really nervous. Started doing communications and behaviour training for teams within large organisations, and I contacted the British Army, and I have a real interest in the military. It's been one of my hobbies. It was my dad's hobby, British military history. Anyway, so I wanted to really help. I actually want to help, and I still do, veteran soldiers. And I actually had a really good conversation with someone who works for SAFA, which is sort of a veterans charity. And he was saying that a good proportion of leavers, military leavers, were coming to him thinking that they had PTSD, but it wasn't PTSD from battle. It was stress. It was just stress from having to work in an environment that they were unfamiliar with. And
change. I mean, all that structure, all that, it must be when you're in the army. I mean, this might be very sort of naive, sort of a very, naive overview, but you have a real purpose, and then you come to civvy world, and what is that? We're all walking around lost. I think what are we all doing? What is our purpose? And that real structure and routine and purpose of what it is you need to wake up and do, you go to bed knowing this is what I'm going to do tomorrow, has gone.
The military is a way of life. You come to civilian and your job is just a job. You might love your job. I have to love my job, but it's not a way of life for me. And I think you've taken people who have absolute purpose. They have, teamwork that, we could even, in a civilian organization, we could even dream about. And you've taken them out and you've sort of said, okay, all those skills that you learned, we're not interested in those anymore. Can you do this instead? And by the way, could you do it on your own? And could you do it with people who don't think like you, are not like you, might not respect what you respect? And it's a massive change. And it's not just a change for the ex-soldier, but it's also for his family as well. And so I got into it simply because I was spending an awful lot of time. Security is a sort of a very natural progression for a lot of soldiers. Now, that might be because they wanted to make it their career, or it's a stepping stone into sort of a different career. But either way, there's an awful lot of military personnel moving across into security. And the stories that I heard, I was just like, I've spent my life helping industries, really large industries, you know, rethink and revolutionize. And I thought, well, I can't do it from outside. If I really want to help, you know, people in the military have a better career, I'll start Hunter Protection. A big myth to understand that, to imagine that the military is just, you know, regimented all the time. You know, they've got to use their initiative, and they're trained. Their training just cannot be compared.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I'm not saying that all military make great CPOs or great security guards. That's not the truth. You know, civilians wing it all the time.
Yes.
The military doesn't.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they don't think on their feet and have an amazing initiative, because that is also, do you know what I mean, part of their training. They don't lose their heads.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that if something did happen, that I can trust that someone with, you know, a great military career has seen some pretty unexpected scenario, has been involved in unexpected scenarios. So not that the UK is particularly dangerous or threatening, but stuff happens.
Yeah.
And I want someone to be able to think clearly. I'll stay with
be for you know, those in the military. You know, I have a lot of messages now, you know, especially from people who are still in the army, that are looking or thinking about, you know, the private security, you know, move into private security. One of the reasons being it seems the most obvious, you know.
Yeah, of course.
What would be some of the tips that you would give to those thinking about to get into work more quickly? You know, is there things they can be doing now while still in the army?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to, and I've been, you know, the guys have been asking me as well. You know, I want to leave the army, and right now, if I'm brutally honest, I'd say stay in another year. Let this COVID thing clear, because it's going to take a while. You know, the close protection industry took a dive. Man guarding took a dive. And in the UK isn't out of it yet. The world isn't out of it yet. So if I want to leave and, you know, I can get a job in security, and I know Tesco's is hiring lots of people, stay right now. However, there are lots you can do. You know, use the army. The army or the military is an amazing resource that civilians can't dream to have. You know, do the courses, do your business development courses, do your CV, do the training. Go and, you know, especially if you're transitioning, you know, the career transition partner, use those resources as much as you can. You know, do the medical qualifications. You won't get better training outside the army. So get every medical qualification you can. And then when you're looking about going onto the circuit, get your CV in order. Get someone to do it. It's not expensive to get someone to do your CV. And understand your value. It's not just about your training courses. It's also about who you are, which is really going to start to impress and make you stand out. And things like, you know, you know, I've got guys who send me a photograph and they haven't got a suit on, or they've got a suit on, they haven't got any shoes on, or you know, one of the things that I do, and I don't know if this is a privacy problem, but I do it, is that I look on your Facebook page.
Well, I think that's
and the amount of Looney Tunes type social media, which is funny to the guys in the regiment, but it's not funny to a particular employer. You know, clean up your social media and lock it down, because if you're not careful about your security, that doesn't tell me that you're going to be careful about my client's security. So there are lots of things you can do. And say you've got you know, quite a long history on LinkedIn of not being particularly nice to people, I would scrub that LinkedIn profile and start again, because I would look at your character and how people, you know, engage in their social media habits. To me, says a lot about people. So
no, I mean that is the world we live in now. What are, taking away the fact that they're military, say it was just a job, What are those key skills that you find, which is why you have the preference for military?
Discipline, vigilance,
Yeah.
being able to have, again, I'm going to use the word discipline, but you know, like, you know, it's not like the movies, right? You know, I mean, I've not once have I ever heard from either people I've employed or from you know, when I was using bodyguards, it wasn't like the movies. No, you know, there was no man in a tuxedo and drinking martinis. There's a lot of boredom as well. There was a lot of,
About to say that it's a huge amount of waiting, standing around.
yeah, there was a lot of standing around. I'd always, you know, I mean, people that looked after me, I would always be so apologetic for, you know, keeping them, and they would be like, oh, you know, this is what we do. And I was like, I'm so sorry, you know, I've taken so long. I was in Nigeria and in Lagos, and I got off the plane, and if you've been to Lagos, it's actually a wonderful, wonderful city. It's a great place. The people are amazing. However, the airport can be intimidating, and you know, the doors open where the sort of as you walk out with your bags and stuff like that, and it's a wall of humanity. It's intimidating, and I was greeted by a driver who was just holding a sign, a driver, and next thing you know, all sorts of people around me. I'm taken to the car park. I've got support vehicles, and you know, my eyes were like wide open, and I was thinking, really, is this necessary? The support vehicles got lights on, and you know, I mean, you know, like, I'm not famous, but you were making me famous. So all I was thinking was, why are we drawing attention to me? You know?
Yeah, that's kind of, that when you said about the lights, that's what I thought.
And I said later to my client, I said, "Are they armed?" He says, "No." And I said, "Well, that's even worse, you know." So now we're telling, you know, would be you know, potential threats that I'm in the car. So that to me, and also there's no communication. So that was the big one. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how far the journey was. I didn't know why. But immediately I'm thinking, where are we going that it is that bad? You know, you get caught in traffic and you're sitting there, and I'm shrinking down in the back seat. Again, no communication. But I'll tell you a really good example of security. So I've been in Nigeria I had to go back and forth, but I've been in Nigeria for about 3 months, which is quite a long time when you're away from home. And I was in a compound. It was all very secure. You know, I had everything that I needed, but I was desperate to go out. So, you know, some colleagues, clients took me out. And again, our security was with us. My security was with me. And he was in the car with me, and I was babbling. I was so excited to be out. And, you know, he knew I was really excited. Anyway, but go through dinner. I'm standing on the dance floor, and I'm a terrible dancer. And I think I probably stood on too many feet. Next thing you know, and I was getting a fair bit of attention, basically because I just stood out for no other reason. And I'm being pushed around by some fairly large women. And they were like, it'd gone through the jostling stage and get off my foot and all that sort of thing. And it got a bit nasty. And you know, I sort of started to think, oh, I'm so out of my depth here. And things are going to get really, I mean, you know, I was getting shoved around. And next thing you know, my close protection officer, my bodyguard, came beside me and started dancing. And he was quite gorgeous. And he started dancing with these girls, and then sort of saying to them and making friends with them, saying, please help this woman dance, teach her how to dance. And it completely diffused the situation. You know, he stayed for a little while, then he went back down and sat at the table where he was keeping an eye on me. And it was just, he diffused the situation. He made them my friends. He made me a bit of a laughing joke. The night continued on. I had a fabulous time. Went home.
Completely the other direction.
It could have gone the other way. And he'd taken me out of there, you know, which he could have done, and he would have done had there been a problem. But it really just showed you that his emotional maturity was way beyond mine. But he kept an eye, but he was reading the room, and he really understood what was going to keep me happy, as in I wanted to stay, but also what was going to diffuse the situation. And you don't get that by just being a scary feature
Yeah. And
in
by
the
going
cyber room.
guns blazing and creating more of a situation than is necessary.
Totally, totally. And so to me, and that's always stuck in my mind of like probably the best security I've ever had.
Karen, thank you
Uh,
so much. That was
You're welcome. And look, I really want to encourage everyone out there to do sort of more like what you're doing, because, you know, I just think that more people talk, and, you know, I, I'm not the font of all knowledge. There are so many people out there that know a whole lot more than me. I can only give my perspective. So well done, Huda. I think it's amazing.
thank you.
If you're scaling without a higher ideal other than price,
Yeah.
you're scaling without an idea.
Yeah.
And therefore, then you're asking clients to be unwitting riders of the horse that's racing to the bottom. And so you're then educating a client to say, hey, please put your family's trust, put your family in the hands of the lowest bidder.
Yeah. That's where the security industry, sadly, across all the sectors, you know, is at. That's where we're at with it.